Hi kids, I'm Jake Rivers and I'm so glad that you're able to join us for today's service because we've got a very special worship experience prepared just for you. Now if you're in the grade 4 to 5 range, our friends on the So-and-So show are up to their usual antics again and you don't want to miss it. And if you're in the grade 3 to kindergarten range, we've got something cool for you too. Get ready for music, stories, and a whole lot more. And for all our preschoolers, we've got a place for you to be called the Wonder Clubhouse. You are gonna love it. Now, if you're watching this on Facebook, you can find the links to all 3 of these videos in the post directly above this one. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can find those links in the description below. You're welcome to watch any of these videos right now or come back and enjoy them after the service. However you're joining us today, we're glad you're with us and we hope you enjoy.
Good morning, my name is Arden and welcome to Elora Road. If it's your first time here with us today, welcome. We are so excited we get to worship with you in your home. For those of you who are interested, we have a brand new way to give using text to give. You can also e-transfer or use our online giving platform. Check out our website by clicking the Give link to find out more about these opportunities. After today's service, we invite you to join us for the post-service chat on Zoom. The link for that is also right here on our ERCF Facebook page. Right now, we invite you to join us as we worship together with the team.
Were creation suddenly articulate with 1,000 songs to lift one cry, and from north to south and east to west, we hear Christ be magnified. His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Sing it all. Christ be magnified at the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. No, I won't bow to idols. I stand strong and worship you. If it puts me through the fire, I rejoice 'cause you're there too. And I won't point for my feelings. I hold fast to what is true. 'Cause if the cross brings transformation, you can hang me there with you. And death is just a doorway into resurrection life. Then I join you in your suffering. Then I join you when you rise. When you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing. My soul will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified. Just let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Sing it all. Christ be magnified at the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Sing it out. Oh, Christ be magnified. Just let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Sing it all. Christ be magnified at the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. You put your love on the line to bear the weight of sin that was mine. Wash it, my river of love, into the sea of your infinite love. Arms held high, Lord, I give my life, knowing I'm felt in Christ, in your love forever. With all I am, in your grace I stand.
To the one who has rescued my soul, to the one who has welcomed me home, to the one who is Savior of all, I sing forever. To the one who has rescued my soul, to the one who has welcomed me home, to the one who is Savior of all, I sing forever. To the one who has rescued my soul, to the one who has welcomed me home, to the one who is Savior of all, I sing forever. Arms held high, Lord, I give my life, knowing I'm found in Christ, in your love forever. With all I am, in your grace I stand, the greatest of all romance. Love of God, my Savior, to the one who has rescued my soul, to the one who has welcomed me home, to the one who is Savior of all, I sing forever. To the one who has rescued my soul, to the one who has welcomed me home, to the one who is Savior of all, I sing forever.
We are so excited to share with you today our series that we're working on. It's called What the Doctor Ordered. So last week, Pastor Jim shared on how we are all desperately needing help. We all have things we need help with. God doesn't want us to do this alone. In fact, He gave us a formula, which was grace plus truth plus time equals change. And so this is so true. And today I'm going to be talking about boundaries and safe places. I want to share a verse with you, and it's from the book of Galatians in the Bible. Paul was writing to the community in Galatia, and they were a community that had discovered God's love and His freedom, but for some reason they had started going back to their old ways and the bondage that they had experienced, and were beginning to live again under the law instead of living under love. And so he wrote them, and he said this to them: "Let me be clear. The Anointed One has set us free, not partially, but completely and wonderfully free. We must always cherish this truth and stubbornly refuse to go back into bondage of our past." That is so beautiful. What would it be like? What would your life be like right now if you didn't have to think about your past with regret and, carry shame and carry guilt and, carry the pain from the past? Well, this is what this whole course is about. It's about getting freedom. And so this is through Christ that we can have freedom, because He paid the price for us to have freedom. Our emotional maturity produces personal freedom and self-control. And self-control is really being able to say no to yourself and to people around you when you need to say no to them. A lot of people, well-intended, will try to break and manipulate and bend and control and govern people's wills. And this is a really very unsafe thing to do to people. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Setting boundaries is super important. And I think when I look at children and raising children, it's a really good way to explain boundaries. So, you know, I'm a mom, and when I had my baby, I basically did everything to protect that baby. And so I would feed it, I would change it, I would clothe it. I made sure it had a safe environment. I made sure it was warm when it was supposed to be, when it was cold outside. I made sure I had, you know, blankets on it. Everything that baby needed, Josh and Andrea, I have 2 children, everything they needed, I made sure that I controlled the environment that they lived in. When they started crawling, I made sure that there weren't things that they could put in their mouth and swallow and choke. And, you know, as they got older, giving them safe boundaries of where they could play and who they could play with. But then as they grew and became teenagers, things change, and it is a godly thing and a God-ordained gift to teach your children freedom with responsibility. And all of us need to learn self-control. We all need to learn it. And if we don't learn it inside the home, in the safety of our parents, it can be detrimental. So I had this happen to me. I experienced that on several levels, actually, and it was very sad. And I don't blame my parents at all. It wasn't something that they did on purpose, but I was very, very sheltered as a child and had really no decision-making abilities. I didn't know that I could say no to certain things. I didn't know that I could stand up for myself, and found myself in some really awkward situations and unsafe situations that caused me some trauma in my life growing up, because I froze. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to walk away. I didn't know what the boundary was. And so that was really difficult for me as a young teenager, because then when I went to college and moved out, again, because I had not learned how to make decisions and not learned how to have freedom with responsibility, I all of a sudden could do anything I wanted. And oh boy, that was not good, because I was listening to the wrong people. And so it's so important that we teach our children responsibility. I have a couple of friends that do this really, really well with their little boys. And from the time they were little, they gave them just small little chores and little things of responsibility. And the greater they became at that responsibility, the more freedom they got. And, you know, the boys are older now, and just, it's such a healthy way to do things. This is something that we all can learn to do with our children, with our friends, with our family, with our coworkers, with everyone. We need to have freedom. So Dr. Cloud taught a really good formula. It was freedom equals responsibility equals love. Our job as parents, when we have children, is to ensure that that formula stays equal. So for example, if you're going to do something that is destructive to yourself or to someone else, that would not be love, which means that you're going to lose freedom or have to increase your responsibility. So we need to keep that in check. And every age is different. Obviously, you're not going to give a 16-year-old who just got their license the keys to your brand new car and let them drive across Canada. Like, it's not going to happen. So you give your children responsibility and freedom as they earn it and grow into those positions, right? We do have to remember, though, that, you know, God does not force us to do anything. He gives us freedom, and He gives us choices, and He allows us to have free will. And we need to make sure that we allow our children to do that. Obviously, at age-appropriate times, they should be making their own decisions. I have 2 adult children now, and sometimes they don't make adult decisions. Sometimes they make decisions that I don't agree with, but I need to let them make those decisions, and I need to love them in that place. And that's something that has been a real interesting journey for me, because I didn't understand unconditional love, and I certainly didn't understand boundaries growing up, But now, you know, I have really healthy relationships with my children, and I do have boundaries with them, and I do have the ability to speak into their life, and they have the ability to speak into mine. We are very, very open with each other, and we respect each other, and so that's really, really important with all your relationships. You know, we should be taught as children and as adults that no is a complete sentence. We don't have to justify why we say no. We don't have to explain it or feel bad about it. It's really important. As a young woman, I wish I had learned that no is a complete sentence. And it's important for all of us to know that. We should not be manipulating or shaming people to do things. We should not be controlling people. That is so dangerous to do that. If you've lived under control and shame and guilt your whole life, you will likely live with that for the rest of your life if you don't learn a different way. I remember probably about 7 years ago reading a book called Families Where Grace is in Place. And it changed my life. It changed the way I saw things. It changed my perspective. And it really changed my parenting. And I told my kids, you know, I made a lot of mistakes and I'm so sorry. But it was a good opportunity to learn and to grow. And of course, they forgave me and things have changed. So this is good. We need to learn and we need to grow in our faith and in our walk. So with proper boundaries and unconditional love, we create safe places. And you know, Jesus, he loved unconditionally, and he basically loved people regardless of their life choices, regardless of their sin, regardless of what was going on in their world. And he had no boundaries on his love. He had no boundaries on his love, but he did expect people to take responsibility for their lives. And you know, sometimes we want to take charge of people's lives, and we want to be their like God, their Holy Spirit, and try to tell them what to do and give them our opinion. And really, we don't have any right to give opinions unless we're asked to. And I want to be like Jesus. I want to love people where they're at, and despite the circumstances in their life. And I don't have to worry that if I'm loving someone who's making a wrong choice, that affects me. Like, I don't have to worry about my reputation. I don't have to feel bad for loving someone who's making a wrong choice. I need to embrace people. And yes, I sometimes need to put up firm boundaries with people. If someone's doing something destructive, like I said, if someone's doing something that's not loving, they have to take responsibility, and maybe their freedoms are going to be taken away. But these are all things that we need to work towards. It's really important, and to create self-awareness and safe boundaries for everyone that are clear and clearly stated, so that everyone's on the same page, especially in a family or a workplace or even in a community. We need to work together and respect each other. So today I actually have a friend of mine, Nicole Hodgson, who is our program director at Elora House, and I'm going to do an interview with her, and we're going to sit here close together because we work together in the same space. She's part of my bubble, so don't worry about that when you see me sitting close to her. But I'm going to interview her because she is the program director and helps create the safe place and safe boundaries at the Elora House. And so I'm going to interview her. But before I do, I just want to share a verse that James wrote. And James was the brother of Jesus. And he basically said, real, true religion from God the Father's perspective is about caring for the orphans and widows who suffer needlessly and resisting the evil influence of the world. So, you know, Elora House is a home that we opened for girls that have been trafficked. And so basically what we did, this church is amazing. They let us do this. We basically created a safe place for these girls to get out of sex trafficking and have the ability to ground themselves again, to relook at their lives, to make healthy choices, to get out of dangerous situations. And so today I'm going to interview Nicole. I am privileged to interview one of my friends here, Nicole, who is actually the program director for Elora House. So I'm just going to ask her a couple of questions. And so Nicole, what does unconditional love and boundaries in Elora House look like?
So at Elora House, unconditional love and boundaries, simply it's providing a safe space that allows the girls to feel comfortable saying no. And so people going through trauma that have come out of major crisis and violence, they often haven't been in a safe space that they've been allowed to say no. And so they have to always follow through with other people's values and needs first before themselves. And so that can end up looking very rigid coming out of trauma, where somebody sets the boundary line so far out that they're not allowing people in, they won't express emotion, they're not going to allow anyone to know anything personal about them, to have relationships, pieces like that. And it can also be the other extreme of having really porous boundaries. So someone who is just very consumed in what everyone else thinks and what everyone else values, and not listening to self, not listening to that voice of what makes them happy, so always putting others before themselves. And so at Elora House, we create a safe space, but we also work to communicate in an active and constructive way. So for example, trauma is messy, right? And it's not always easy in its presentation because they've gone through so much, right? So anger is a big thing that comes up. And so sometimes that line can be crossed with anger, where you're sitting with someone and you're supporting them and you're listening, but they direct their anger at you and it gets louder and all those pieces. So being constructive in communication and being active in communication would be saying something like, I understand that you're angry and you have every right to be angry because you've been through so much. And I'm here to sit with you in that. But if you continue to scream at me and direct your anger at me, I'm gonna have to disengage and I'm gonna go and get some fresh air. So what that says is that I'm not rejecting you, I am not judging you. You have every right to feel the way you feel, and I'm not gonna tell you how to feel. And you can come back to me when you're ready, and we can have a conversation about this again. So it opens it up. So that is unconditional love. That is being a support with no judgment. You know, it's hard to sit in trauma. It's really hard, but that's what we're providing at Elora House. So we have lots of activities, lots of programming. There's a lot of discussion on boundaries and health and wellness, and encouraging them to express their feelings and be okay with it, to sit in it. And you know, not everyone comes at their own pace. We have many stages in our program too. So usually in first stage, there's a bit of like a boundary testing, right? And some people stay in that a little bit longer than others, and they transition and they get more privileges and as they're engaging more in the program, if that makes sense. So that's how we provide unconditional love and boundaries at.
How are the girls responding to our guidelines at Elora House?
We do have some interesting guidelines at Elora House. So for somebody to come into our care, they have to be open to engaging in our program, and that looks like, you know, not having a cell phone, like giving up on things like that, not having devices that are going to keep them in contact with some of the unhealthy people in the trafficking ring or outside world that was kind of keeping that cycle going. And that's hard. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, is this going to work? It is. What I'm finding is usually there's questioning that first week, like, do I really need to be doing this? And then by the end of the first week, people talk about this sense of like freedom in their mind, not having to be on social media, not having to like tell everyone how they're feeling. Nobody's in their business. They're allowed to just like sit with what's gone on and unpack it and give time to themselves. When people have gone through trauma, when they've gone through domestic violence and sex trafficking and other kinds of trauma, they're often having to take care of the abuser and because of the control mechanisms. And so this is the no cell phone, like it's freeing. It allows them to focus on themselves. Some of the other pieces I know that have been challenging for people coming in as I'm interviewing them or whatever to come into the program is the no smoking. It's not a harm reduction program. And I think probably like 90% of the girls that have gone through so far have been smokers. And it's working. So I find that funny too, because in the beginning, I wasn't sure how it would all play out, but they're doing it and they're so proud of themselves. And everyone is going at it at a different pace, but they're all doing it. And we're using like the patches or, things of their choice. But that piece is working too.
So, Nicole, what happens in the home when the girls discover their voice, that they can say no?
When they're finding their voice and they're able to say no, you see more peacefulness within them. The emotions aren't so dysregulated. People are able to express where the line is for them and why, and they can walk away without feeling guilty. And it's kind of this beautiful thing, when there's no shame around saying, actually, Nicole, I'm not comfortable with having this conversation. Maybe tomorrow. I'm too upset, so I'm going to take care of myself. Wow, that's amazing, right? And it's not about, boundaries are not about like this selfish piece. It's about self-preservation, right? So I'm finding the girls they're finding themselves in this whole process. And there is a peacefulness. And they're developing healthy relationships, with staff and with other residents.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming and sharing with us. I really appreciate it. You're doing great work at Elora House. So I'm so grateful that we got to chat with Nicole here for a few minutes. And I just want to just follow up by saying a few things just to make us all aware of what we can do. So number one, don't be afraid to love people. Don't be afraid to love people just because, they maybe have done things that you wouldn't agree with. And maybe they're doing things you don't agree with. That shouldn't change your love for them. We don't want to worry about our reputation. Jesus never worried about that. He always loved people, as I mentioned before. And so we want to be like Jesus. We want to have open arms. We want to extend our love to everyone around us, and especially those who really need it. Number two, reach out to people around you. Be intentional about your love. Let your motivation be purely to love someone, not an agenda. Don't have like this agenda. Well, I want to do this and this, and so I'm going to be nice to them, and I'm going to go serve here because I want to, meet people to get them to come to my church. Or no, people can sniff that out. Love people because you are loved. Love people because that's what you were created to do. And you might be sitting here listening to this and you're like, I don't even know if I believe in Jesus. I don't even know if I love God or know God, but I love people. Well, I'm going to say this to you, and you may not agree with me, but I believe everyone can love because you were all created in God's image, and that inside of you, that voice inside of you, that gut instinct that you have, that you want to follow because you sense that it's speaking to you about things that you can't put your finger on it, you don't know what it is. Well, I believe it's Holy Spirit. I believe it's God that wants to speak to you, wants to draw you in, and wants you to see His love and feel His love and experience His love, because that's the kind of God we serve. He's not just, up in heaven telling us what to do. That's not what He's doing. He's created a world for us to live in and to love each other and have a relationship with Him and with others and be caring and kind and share His message with people. And that's what He wants us to do. So number 3 is we need to surrender if we want to live a life of love and be under the law of love, which is an amazing law because it gives us freedom, it gives us responsibility, it helps us to love, because that's the formula, right? If there is a formula. We need to surrender to Him. We need to surrender to His ways. And to get to know Him better, you can read about Him in His Word, in the Bible. Read the stories of Jesus. He's such a beautiful man and such a beautiful God, and just unconditional love and merciful and kind. And He came to love us and to save us, not to judge us. And so number 4, I would encourage you to partner with an organization in your community and make a difference. When you do something like that, man, it gives you purpose in life. You get up in the morning and you are ready to go because you are doing something that matters. You're doing something for someone else, and that makes you feel good. And you do it not just to feel good, but you do it because you love people. And so you can make a huge difference. And today we talked about Allure House, but it doesn't have to be Allure House. It can be anything you're passionate about, because when you're passionate about something, you will do pretty much anything, and that's good. So if something we said today about Allure House interested you, or you know somebody who'd be interested, you are welcome to check out our website. It's allurehouse.com. And no pressure at all. You can take a look, you can ask questions, you can email us. But there are so many amazing things going on in our city right now that you can be a part of, and you can make a difference. So I want to just pray for you right now. There's a song that is called For the One, and I'm probably going to post it on Sunday on our website. But it is a beautiful song, and it's talking about asking God to fill us with love for people. And so I'm just going to pray that over us right now. And Father God, I just pray, Lord, that you would fill us with kindness and compassion for people. God, that you would increase our love to help people. Father, to love people with open arms, to love like you do, a love that erases lies and sees truth. Father, I pray that when people look in our eyes, that they will see you, even if it's just a smile, God, that they would see your love through us. And Father, whether someone's homeless or rich or anywhere in between, Father, I pray that you would help us to extend your love to them. And because, God, we're all your children. Every single one of us, you love us. You have no, you are not a respecter of persons. You love and care for each one of your children. And so I pray today that whoever's watching here will know that they are loved and that they can make a difference, and that it's okay to say no, and it's okay to have boundaries, and it's really important to live the life of freedom that God gave you. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for tuning in today. God bless you.